Once upon a time, there was a guy named Neo. One day, he met a man who offered him a choice: to take a blue pill and go on with his life as he now knows it, or take a red pill and see the world as it really is. Neo decides to try a new perspective, so he chooses the red pill. It's probably fair to say his new reality was a bit unexpected. But it all works out. He learns karate, shoots guns, and flies around. Okay, so you've probably figured out this is the plot of The Matrix. But what I want to talk about is what Neo becomes in this story. Yes, a kung fu master, and that's definitely super cool. But what I mean is, he becomes a skeptic. Skeptic is a common term, and it of course means a person inclined to question or doubt accepted opinions. But it can also refer to a philosopher who doubts the possibility of knowledge, or even rational belief. This branch of philosophy is known as skepticism. The term skepticism derives from the Greek word skeptimi, which means to think about or to contemplate. Skepticism is the philosophical approach of questioning, doubting, or critically examining claims, beliefs, and knowledge. It's like a mental filter for sorting fact from fiction, asking, is this really true? Or, how do we know? Rather than simply accepting things at face value. It can be applied across various domains, including science, religion, and everyday life. The original skeptic is often considered to be the Greek philosopher Pyrrho of Elis, who lived around 300 BC. He's credited with systematizing skepticism into a cohesive philosophical approach. There is a whole category of skepticism named after him: Pyrrhonian skepticism. Pyrrhonian skepticism teaches that we cannot know anything with absolute certainty, so it's better to suspend judgment. That knowledge is relative. That our senses and reasoning can be unreliable. So any claim to truth should be met with doubt. He believed that letting go of the need for definitive answers led to the ultimate goal of his form of skepticism: tranquility through doubt, providing inner peace and freedom from anxiety. Pyrrho did not write about his ideas. His teachings were preserved and expanded by later skeptics, especially Sextus Empiricus, a 2nd century philosopher whose writings are the main source of knowledge about Pyrrhonian skepticism. Sextus wasn't directly quoting Pyrrho. Instead, he synthesized the skeptical tradition that evolved after Pyrrho. His book, Outlines of Pyrrhonism, doesn't claim to be an exact representation of Pyrrho's teachings, but rather presents the Pyrrhonian approach as it stood in Sextus's time. Pyrrho's skepticism influenced not just philosophy, but also later scientific and critical thinking traditions. Skepticism isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. It comes in different flavors, depending on what is being questioned. Philosophical skepticism. This is the big one, the kind of skepticism philosophers have been debating for centuries. Philosophical skeptics often examine the limits of human knowledge, asking if absolute certainty is even possible. Scientific skepticism. This applies skepticism specifically to scientific claims or ideas. Trust evidence, not anecdotes or assumptions. It focuses on testing claims with empirical evidence and the scientific method. Scientific skeptics don't reject claims outright. They ask for repeatable, testable proof before accepting them. Moral skepticism questions the existence or objectivity of moral truths. Are there universal rights and wrongs, or are morals just subjective opinions? Some moral skeptics argue that morality is culturally constructed rather than an absolute truth. Religious skepticism challenges religious beliefs, practices, or the existence of a deity. Is there sufficient evidence to justify belief in God or religious doctrines? Radical skepticism. This is skepticism taken to the extreme. Doubt everything, including your own senses and reasoning. It asks whether anything at all can truly be known. Perhaps the most famous example of this comes from the 17th century philosopher René Descartes, who decided to doubt all his knowledge and use reason to determine what is certain and then rebuild his knowledge base from that. He first reasoned that since he was doubting what he knew, then, at the very least, he could be certain he was a thinking entity capable of doubt. This realization led him to famously declare, "Cogito ergo sum," I think, therefore I am. Skepticism is an important branch of philosophy because it serves as a critical tool for examining the limits of human knowledge and challenging assumptions. It holds a central place in philosophy for several reasons. Skepticism forces us to ask fundamental questions. What can we know? How do we know it? Can we ever know anything for certain? This introspection is essential for epistemology, the study of knowledge, as it helps define the boundaries between justified beliefs and mere opinions. It encourages critical thinking. By questioning assumptions and evidence, skepticism promotes logical reasoning and analytical skills. It challenges dogmatic beliefs and biases, encouraging people to look at claims through a lens of rational inquiry and empirical evidence. It prevents intellectual arrogance. Skepticism teaches intellectual humility by showing that our senses, reasoning, and perceptions can be flawed or incomplete. This humility is crucial for personal growth and open-minded dialogue, especially in a world full of conflicting ideas and perspectives. It advances science. Scientific skepticism is at the heart of the scientific method. It encourages testing hypotheses, questioning results, and demanding repeatable evidence. Without skepticism, progress might stagnate under unquestioned traditions or pseudoscience. It promotes tolerance and dialogue. Philosophical skepticism often advises suspending judgment when certainty is unattainable, fostering a mindset that values dialogue over dogmatism. This approach helps people engage constructively with differing viewpoints. In a world increasingly saturated with information and misinformation, skepticism is more relevant than ever. It empowers individuals to seek truth, question authority, and embrace uncertainty while striving for clarity and understanding. By teaching us to navigate complexity with curiosity and caution, skepticism becomes a cornerstone of intellectual and ethical development. As useful as it is to human understanding, skepticism can lead to a dark place if taken too far. When doubt extends to every aspect of human knowledge, it leads to a state where one questions the very existence of reality itself. This was the situation in which Neo found himself. So he puts limits on his skepticism to avoid paralysis. He chooses to accept life aboard a dark, dingy ship, eating crappy food as his new reality. Well, at least there's Trinity. Hopefully she's real. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe.